It finally happened. I cast on one of my Make 9 teas, and I've got some thoughts. I've finished my Fleetwood story, and I've been reading a ton. So grab a whip, grab a cozy beverage, and let's dive in. Welcome back, friends. If you're new here, my name is Melissa. I am the dyer behind Rising Tide Fiber Company. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. I'm so happy to be here with all of you. I have not sat down in about a month and given you just a really big update on where I am in my projects, what I'm reading, what I'm watching. So I thought we'd sit down today and I'd share a little bit with you. So I do have a couple of FOs that I have finished. First up is I have finished my Fleetwood sweater. She is blocked. The ends are woven in. She is like finished, y'all. And I have got to say, she fits beautifully. Obviously, with the crochet squares, it is a little breezy, so I will definitely, even though it's a worsted weight sweater, I will definitely wear like a camisole or something under it, but she is beautiful. This is knit in pieces because it is a drop shoulder sweater. And because you're crocheting your squares and then you have to knit some strips and connect everything. Quite honestly, she fits beautifully. I would totally knit it again. And if I'm being honest, my sister has asked me to make her one for Christmas this year because she loves mine. So I may sit down with her and do some color selection, figure out just, what parameters I need to stick in. So you might be seeing another one of these soon enough. But she is gorgeous. She is cozy, and I love it. I would definitely not shy away from it if you are new to knitting a garment in pieces, because once you get your front and back, and then you're just really just seaming up the sides, doing some hemming, doing some sleeves and a collar. Honestly, I don't know what took me so long to finish that second sleeve. I just needed to sit down with like a movie, knock it out, and then block it and weave it ends. But she is indeed done. The other finished object, you may know that one of my goals this year, an arbitrary goal I've set for myself, is that I am getting the Freckled Whimsy Christmas sock club each month. And this month February, we got gingerbread kisses and Christmas wishes. And this is what I have left. I could probably get a pair of shorty socks out of this. I'm not too sure, but I do have some left over. But I did finish my socks, and I love these. They're just that warm, cozy, spicy look to them. They are definitely very gingerbread inspired colorway. If you are new on these parts of the interwebs, I use a US 1 circular sock needle. I cast on 64 stitches. I knit for an inch of 2x2 ribbing. I knit from end to where I start my heel flap is 7 inches. I do a traditional heel flap and gusset. And then for my shoe size, I am knitting for 7¼ inches until I start my toe decreases. So I'm about a 7.5 size 8 shoe. So again, I have a fair amount left over. But I love this. And my goal was, if I'm going to get this yarn every month, then I want to be actually knitting the socks each month. So I did not finish these in February because it was such a short month. It did kind of carry over into March, but I am very pleased with them. And so that kind of brings me into what am I currently working on now that those are all finished. And so the first one is the colorway for March of Freckled Whimsy. This one is called Santa Paws, and it's this really dark burgundy mini skein, and then it's like reds and greens. So we are in mid-March, and I have actually completed all of my sock for this one. I just need to start my toe decreases. I have cast on my second sock as well. So what I will probably do is do my second sock until I get down to the toe, and then I'll just spend an evening or two working on my two toes and then weave in my ends all at once. So I love the name Santa Paws. And I really love this color. It, once again, is very warm, toasty, cozy. I'm not usually a brown or greens. Like, it's just an earthy Christmas color, which I don't really gravitate towards earthy tones, but I love this one. And again, US one, I use a 9-inch circular for my sock. I don't switch to magic loop until I start my toe, and I use a micro cord with mine, so I don't have as hard of a time getting it up over those ends. It's a trick a friend of mine taught me with the Chow needles. So that is sock number 1. I do have a second sock you may have seen where I had picked up a stray sock where I had from my whip pile. It was called Sailor Stories. I had done part of one. I finished this first sock last month. I'm now working through the second sock. I think the last time I saw you, I had just cast on a heel for this. So I'm not pressed. My sock whips, while I would like to make my way through a fair amount of them, they're not the priority. The Christmas socks are, but I do take these along when I have to go wait somewhere. And so that's what this has been, just living in this little bag. It gets shoved in my pocketbook, and I just take it with me when I have to, like the other morning I was waiting for my physical therapy consultation. And so that I worked on the sock while I was sitting there. The other couple of whips I have are living in this beautiful tote bag. And the first one is my Cozy Comfort Throw by Molly of a Homespun House. And I am using my Ephron Essentials colorways from the Nora Ephron films, and the colorways are inspired by a few of her films that I'm a really big fan of. And we started the first trimester is Sleepless in Seattle colorways. So we did late night radio, then we moved into, oh good golly, what was this one called? I can't remember my own colorway name. Oh, I know what this one was. Empire State of Mind. Good golly. And then we have moved into the third colorway, which looks like this, which is It Was Magic. So I have barely started this. I am knitting this one in DK weight on a US 6. I'm using a signature needle in a size 6. It's a garter stitch blanket. It's kind of soothing. It's perfect for when I'm sitting in waiting, or I just need something really meditative and I don't want to think too hard. Maybe I'm sitting with someone else and I'm, having a conversation, or, there are times when I've been out and I come home and I want to sit and knit, but the dogs are really excited to see me and they kind of want my attention, and I'm going inside and outside and all the things with them. And so this is really easy to kind of knit on when things are just a little more excitable, I guess you could say, around here. I did start a second cozy comfort throw, and this one I am using. If you saw my whip reckoning video, one of my whips was I had started a jelly roll blanket, and I had an old blanket club from Jimmy Bean's Wools in their Mad Tosh, some sort of Mad Tosh worsted. And I never did the blanket. I didn't like the blanket. I really wasn't a fan of most of the colorways that came. And so I really didn't know what to do with this yarn. It sat in my stash for a really long time. And then I cast it on the jelly roll blanket, and I just wasn't really loving that pattern. And so after I started this cozy comfort throw and realized I really kind of like the meditative nature of this blanket, I decided that I would frog that blanket project and start this one. And so I did that last month. I didn't get that idea right away. So I have started with this mustardy color, and then it moved into this blue that had hints of yellow, and now I'm moving into this orange color that has hints of purple. And my goal is to knock out, I have 12 skeins. I'll do one skein a month. I'm all caught up. Now I'm in March, so I just have to get through this skein. And really, I think this is pretty doable. I think it's manageable. Same with the other one. This one is a worsted weight. So this one I am on a signature needle again. This one is a US 9, so 5.5 millimeter. I just happen to have these two signature needles. Don't ask me why these two particular sizes, but they were handy. I didn't get rid of my signature needles when they went out of business, so I'm pretty pleased with these two. And again, they're just living in a basket so that I can easily pick them up at my leisure. Right now they're not taking up a ton of space in my house, so that's good. I'm building the memory of creating one out of my colorways, but also using up stash yarn that I didn't really know what to do with because I wasn't necessarily a fan of all the colors. That leads me into my Frogget Yarns bibliophile shawl. You might remember from last month that I am participating in this, sorry for the crinkling, I'm participating in this mystery knit along with Tasha from Frogget Yarns, and then the pattern is written by Rachel of Paisley Pearl, and which ironically is my dog's name. Go figure. But every month I order a half skein of fingering and a mini skein. It's a half sock set, or I call them micro sock sets, because I can get a whole pair of socks out of them with my particular shoe size. But this month for March, it was based on the book cover of Never Ever After by Sue Lynn Tan. It's a book that I had an advanced copy of, and so I read it months ago. The colorway was based on the flowers on the book, not the dark book cover. So this was really spot on. And so every month we get a new part of the pattern. And so this is what we started with. They called it a rickrack stitch. It's beautiful, but I can't say I enjoyed knitting it per se. It just took a long time. Then there's this lace eyelet section with February's color. And then we did this beautiful mesh colorway that I really think highlights this colorway a lot for March. So I need to order my April yarn because we have all of March to order it. At the end of the month, she closes it, and you can't get it after that from her. Now, she does have like 4 or 5 shops that carry the yarn. So if you want to get in on this, because it's still probably early enough, you could probably totally get in on this, and just by calling around those partner shops and seeing if you can get the first 3 colorways. And I think even if you couldn't get, say, the sock set, like you could just get a skein of, let's say you could just get a skein of fingering, or even if you got a full sock skein, I mean, I wouldn't care about getting a full sock skein because I could do this and then get a pair of socks out of it. So I think it's super fun. It's, it's not a ton of knitting each month because we're still pretty early on, but I'm really enjoying it. For the most part, it's pretty meditative. Like I said, we get the pattern update. Like I got it a few days ago. I'll order my yarn when I'm done filming. And then beginning of April, I'll have my yarn or already have the pattern update. Totally doable. I love it. And that brings me into my final whip. And this is one that actually coincides with my Make 9. If you didn't see back in January when I made my Make 9 video, I will link that in the description box below. But I chose the Winfred. It's not, there's no I in the middle like I always want to make it. It's living in this project bag by Star Knits. It's a box bag with coffee cups in it. It's a bag that I frogged a whip from, again, my whip video. And I was like, oh, that's the perfect size bag for my tea. So my Winifred, I am using my own yarn. It is the Willow Fingering in the color Peer Pressure. And so it is 90% superwash merino, 10% linen. So the linen actually kind of resists the dye a little bit. And I am knitting this on a US 4, which is a 3.5mm needle. And I have gotten through all of my short rows. I've gotten through the lace and bobble section. Let's see if I can hold this up a little bit better. So there are a couple of sections like above the lace panel and then like a few rows below that you could use another colorway, and it's a color work section. Very simple, very delicate. You don't really see that in the pattern photos because she uses like a beige, and then those colors are, the color work is with a real natural looking color. So she has extremely low contrast. I opted to not do the color work. I just knit for those like 3 or 4 rows. So I'm really pleased. I have about 8 more rounds and then I can split for my sleeves. I am hoping to have this finished by Yarn Centric. You probably know that the Charm City Unicorns are having a tea and tank make along, and then you can show off your finished garments at Yarn Centric. So that is sort of what inspired me with the pink. There is another make along hosted by the Table 10 podcast, and I don't remember what the stipulations were for it. I think it's just anything. It may be a t-shirt make along. I'll link those Instagram posts below so you can get the details if you're interested in playing along. But I'm very excited about this. Again, it just fits down in this teeny tiny little bag. I love my willow base. I love a wool combined with a plant fiber. I think it just does really amazing things. That leads me into shop news. Just real briefly, if you have been interested in the Efron Essentials, that is my monthly colorway this year. It is inspired by Nora Ephron films from the 90s. We are almost finished with Sleepless in Seattle. April will be the last month of that. Then I'm moving into When Harry Met Sally, and we will round out the final trimester of the year with You've Got Mail. So I'm really excited about this. It's very nostalgic, and it is something that you can jump into at any point. The colors are not going away for the year, so they are still on my website. So you can still go back at January, February, and March if you want to make your own blanket. So I did pull out a skein of It Was Magic, which is this beautiful, like, pink, purple. It's got some, like, brown plums in it and some, like, icy blues. I do have a crochet swatch, but I didn't bring it out. But I do have the knitted swatch. I'm really pleased with how this one came out. I will try and put the inspiration photo here. It is also on the website, but if you are interested, you can absolutely play along. I have been in like hunter-gatherer mode, and it is finally warm enough in Maryland. Fingers crossed it's really cold today, but it has been warm recently where I've been able to go out to the dye studio. If you're new around here, my dye studio is in my garage, and it is not insulated. So while my proofing cabinet is insulated, the garage itself is not. And if it's not terribly cold, I don't mind going out to the garage, turning on a space heater, and working. But it has been so bitterly cold on the East Coast, and particularly in the Mid-Atlantic region, that my water source, which is the spigot on the side of my house, my husband had a spigot put in close to the garage so that I wouldn't have to travel very far to get water, and I didn't want to take a space in my area to add a sink. And I can easily heat it up with it sort of looks like an aquarium heater. If you have a fish tank, it looks like an aquarium heater, but it's actually much bigger, and it fits down into a 5-gallon bucket of water. They're traditionally used in like the agricultural area, like people with horses, cattle, sheep, that kind of stuff. They use it to kind of keep water warmer, maybe not to heat it up quite as hot as I need it. But yeah, it's finally gotten warm enough where I am comfortable going out to the dye studio and really digging in and preparing for spring shoe season. I have been going kind of hunting around and finding all those random skeins that didn't turn out the way that I wanted them. Maybe I have single skeins left over from 5-6 years ago that I'm probably never going to dye again. I just have all these skeins floating around. I had skeins that didn't quite dye correctly in the pan, throw them back in the pan and dye some, add more dye so they don't actually meet, they're more saturated maybe than what I traditionally dye. I'm just gathering up all of those, scanning them up. I'll have sale bins at the Frederick Fiber Festival. I'll probably create some mystery bags with really nice pair up of skeins as well. So I'm really loving that. And that's about it for shop news. We'll probably get more in depth as festival season gets a little bit closer. What have I been watching? I hadn't been watching a whole heck of a lot of anything, but last week, the week before, I think it was last week, shows started coming out that I've been looking forward to. So the final episode or the final season of Outlander is upon us. And so I am excited for that because I enjoy watching it. I'm sad to see the series leaving stars, but I do really enjoy it, and I know others do too. So that's been exciting to have back on Friday nights. I have not been watching a lot of reality television. If you know me, you know that I feel like there is so much chaos and drama in the United States right now that I cannot handle reality television. Like, I used to be such a fanatic of like Real Housewives, like all the Bravo stuff, and I just can't do it. But I can say that The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives kind of sucked me in, and they did it because I needed something to watch while I was winding skeins. When you just have hundreds of skeins to wind, you're kind of like, all right, well, I'll just turn this on as background noise. It was kind of boring for, I'd say, the first like 6 or 7 episodes of the 10, and then it just got incredibly messy. And they're in their most of them are in their late 20s. A couple are in their early 30s. So when I think about when I was their age, they're not doing anything out of the ordinary per se. I was probably just as messy at that age. The only difference is I wasn't married with kids at that age. I got married in my mid-30s. So it got incredibly messy towards the end. I will say that they didn't stop. It's like they didn't stop filming. Like, this season picked up before the last season even ended. And then I think this weekend, The Bachelorette, which Taylor Frankie Paul is the Bachelorette this season. So I think the timing was incredibly resourceful on the part of ABC, I think is who filmed it. It was fun. It, like I said, it gave me something to kind of have in the background while I was winding skeins and the dogs are playing, that sort of thing. I moved on to Virgin River. I kind of devoured that. This was kind of a low-key season for it. There were a few highlights, some plot wins in my book. I really enjoyed it, but again, left us on a cliffhanger like it normally does. Not a really taxing one, like you're like, oh my gosh, what is going to happen type of thing. Like, it doesn't feel like a bad cliffhanger. It feels like an exciting cliffhanger, like a happy one. And then the show that I'm probably most surprised by, and not really surprised that it's good because it's written and produced by Taylor Sheridan, who did Yellowstone. What's that one with Sylvester Stallone? I don't know. My husband watches it. It takes place in Oklahoma. The Lioness, which I really love, with Nicole Kidman. So he writes a lot of these really great dramas, and he has a new one out with Michelle Pfeiffer and Kurt Russell called The Madison. It does take place in Montana, like Yellowstone did. But it's modern day. We're not going back. I love it. The first 3 episodes are out on Paramount Plus, if you have that. And I really was surprised how much I got sucked into the story. He is a really great storyteller, so I shouldn't be surprised. Michelle Pfeiffer does a really great job in her portrayal. Like, you really feel what she's feeling. And it's not entirely sad. There are some really funny moments with her daughters. There are a few times you think about, like, man, if she would just backhand them really good for being such snotty brats. But it's really enjoyable if you have Paramount Plus, or if you have cable and Paramount as part of your package. I think you can watch it that way. Definitely worth the watch. I liked it. As for books, I have done a ton of reading because, again, for a long time, I wasn't really watching a lot of television. So I'm going to run through the dozen or so books that I have. I'll not give you a synopsis of every single one. You can go look those up. For some of you, you will have already read them. There are a few that I particularly loved, and so I'll share more about those. The first is like a batch. I kind of had a run on Frida McFadden. There were a handful of books, the Housemaid series, that I had never read. I had read everything else she's written, including like her medical ones, romance types ones. So I made it through the Housemaid series. So the Housemaid was the first one, the Housemaid's Secret. Then I think it's the Housemaid's Wedding, and then the Housemaid is Watching. So it's a 4-book series. One of them, I think the Housemaid's Secret, is technically a novella. If you know Frida McFadden's writing, you know that to me it's kind of like cheap domestic thriller. Like, it doesn't feel super psychologically thriller. For the most part, it doesn't get under your skin scary. Like, there's nothing profound about it, but it is easily digestible. Like, it is thriller for the masses, basically. So I enjoyed it. Then she does have a new book out called Dear Debbie, and that one I really enjoyed. I don't always enjoy her novels. Sometimes I'm just like, oh, yeah. I'm thinking of The Tenant. I didn't really like The Tenant much. It was okay. Dear Debbie, I enjoyed that premise. Basically, a mom has she's educated but she's kind of a stay-at-home mom, and she writes like a Dear Abby column for the local paper type of thing. And she writes a piece that and ends up getting fired because it wasn't she basically was telling an abused woman to leave her marriage type of thing. So it was, and I think it was like a wholesome Christian news, local paper that she was writing for. So that one was good. I also read Immortal Consequences. This was from August, my book of the month from August 2025. It has beautiful sprayed edges. This one was just okay for me. I don't even remember what the premise is. This is the first of at least a duology, so I'll probably listen to the second one, but this one didn't excite me. This wasn't a fantasy that really was like, ooh, yeah. I mean, the back says something about 6 rivals, 1 victor, eternity is only the beginning. I didn't really get sucked into this story. But again, fantasy is not my genre of choice. Then I read the last in the Rome, Kentucky series. It was book number 4 by Sarah Adams. It's called In Your Dreams. It's a romance novel. I liked it. I don't think it was my favorite of the 4 books in that series. It is the last. The author has come out and said that. I listened to Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is her latest novel, and I had been anxiously awaiting it from my library. Since the beginning, all of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books, I have actually listened to. Julia Whalen does her narration, and I love her as a narrator, so I've just always stuck with the audiobook of hers. This one had a bigger cast, not quite as big as, say, Daisy Jones and the Six, but I do like an ensemble to when we've got a couple different women, maybe a couple different men. The distinction in voices, sometimes it does help. It's not like that full-blown cast with like sounds and bells and whistles. Like, it's nothing like that. Y'all, I loved this book. I loved it. I mean, I am a huge fan of Taylor Jenkins Reid, but Atmosphere was about a female astronaut, and really about two female astronauts, but we're focusing on one of them. But they have a relationship during a time in history where it wasn't, you didn't tell people you had a relationship with someone of the same sex, and you tried to hide it. Like if people started to suspect it, then you tried to hide it even more. This story, though it was about space and going into space, it also follows this love story. And let me tell you, the last 20% of this book, I don't think I've cried that much over a book in so long. It was so beautifully written. Like, I loved it. This will, like, as of right now, this is my favorite book that I've read all year. Like, I loved it that much. It is such a beautiful story. You don't even have to like anything about space to necessarily love this story. There are so many plot lines to love in this book. And the only other book of Taylor Jenkins Reid's that I had not read was the tennis one, which was the one prior to Atmosphere, which was called Carrie Soto is Back. And I didn't read it because I don't like tennis. So I was like, why am I going to read a book about tennis? I did, after reading Atmosphere, which as a little kid, I wanted to be an astronaut. We lived in the Midwest. Like, I could look up at the stars and, you know, there was plenty of them because there was no light pollution. Carrie Soto is Back. I can't say that I loved it. It was good. It was better than I anticipated it would be. Even with all the tennis stuff, I did learn a little bit about tennis that, like, I didn't understand scoring in tennis. Now I have a better understanding of that because she does explain it to you in the beginning, like you're a kindergartner, for those of us who don't know anything about it. So I did love that one. I listened to Happier Hour by Cassie Holmes. This was recommended by somebody talking about like books that had kind of changed and shaped the way that they think. And this was one of the books that they recommended. So I got a copy of it from my library and I listened to it. It's not terribly long. I want to say it's like 6 hours long. This is one of those books that I might actually buy it because I found some of the nuggets of information really helpful. And it's not like, how do you change your schedule, but really like, how do you do things to set yourself up to enjoy something later on in your week or whatever. It really is about just kind of shifting and sort of doing things a little bit differently in order to enjoy experiences more. So I really liked it. Like, again, I'll probably buy it so that I can refer back to it again. I also read How to Do Nothing by Jenny Odell. I know some people go into this book thinking it's really going to tell you how to do nothing. It is absolutely not that. It is absolutely a current events book. She really goes in hard on the current administration. So, if that doesn't align with your views, you are not going to want to read this book. I can't say that I gained much from it. It really felt like a political rant. So if you are against the current administration as much as the author, it might be a balm for your soul. It's sort of like commiserating, but I won't say that you'll necessarily find any great gems or much of anything else in it. The next book I read was All the Way to the River by Elizabeth Gilbert. This was another book of the month book that I pulled off my shelf. This one is from September of 2025. I liked this book. This is it's sort of about her relationship with Rhea, who, if you follow Elizabeth Gilbert's life, it was the woman she was in a relationship with who passed away, I want to say, a couple years ago. This book is really not so much their love story. I mean, it does talk about their love story, but it really talks about their addiction stories, which I don't think in everything that I've read by Elizabeth Gilbert that I really picked up on her addictions. Part of me, I enjoyed this book, I will say that, but part of me, it feels like, was it your place to tell Rhea's addiction story and struggles? Like, I don't know, that particularly because she's gone. Some people found this to be like woo woo. Like, she talks about talking to Rhea in the afterlife. Like, there are things in here that some people are going to be like, yeah, no. Yeah, no. But I think even if you don't necessarily agree or can't wrap your head around those kinds of things, I still think it's an interesting story. I like Elizabeth Gilbert's writing. I have since I read Eat, Pray, Love. So just know that if you want to read this one, this is a story about addiction. This is a story about how addiction can really tear you down. It can really ruin your life. And though it hasn't ruined her life completely, she does kind of talk through her various addictions and how she's managed to navigate them now that she's not necessarily on the other side, but she's really done the work to get through them. That's everything that I've read. I'm currently reading The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This was one that was a book club pick in the Love and Stitches membership, and it just didn't come from my library in time for me to read it when they read it. So I'm listening to it now. And I'm also reading at night. I have an advanced copy of The Faraway Inn by Sarah Beth Durst. This is a young adult novel. She has written a series, The Bookshop, and there was something about the greenhouse. And then her latest one that comes out this summer is called Sea of Charms. I have an advanced reader's copy of that one too. But The Faraway Inn is sort of fantasy novel for young adult readers. Y'all, it is really charming. I'm actually really enjoying it. I've not been sleeping well at night, so when I do go to bed, I'm really tired. And it's not because I'm not getting 8 hours of sleep. I'm getting 8 hours of sleep each night. It's just not good sleep. So when I go to bed, my body's pretty tired, so I fall asleep pretty quickly. So I'm not getting through more than a handful of pages a night. I'm really enjoying it, y'all. And that pretty much covers everything that I've been up to. I know I've been really quiet on social media. I know I have not sent a Tuesday Tidbit newsletter out in a really long time. It's been, I don't think I've sent one at all this year, and I just kind of got in a rut and out of step with it. It is something that I do plan on returning to. I would like to do those again. So if you are not on my newsletter list, you might want to get yourself on my newsletter list, because I do spend a fair amount of time with my Tuesday Tidbit letter, just kind of briefly saying, here's what I'm knitting, watching, reading, listening to. Here's where you can find me. Like, really meant to just be like 2 or 3 minute read and move on with your day. I would love to know, have you started a spring make? Like, are you working on a tea or a tank for the spring, or for either of the make-alongs that I've mentioned? I'd love to know below. So until next time, friends, happy reading, happy knitting, and I'll see you in the next one.